All right, so let's talk about exactly what is traded within the foreign exchange market, or the Forex market for short, right? And we actually, talked a little bit about this in the last lesson when we were, discussing that travel abroad example where we were exchanging one currency for the other, right? So global, currencies that you have around the world, like the euro or the US dollar, are a couple of those entities that you can actually trade within the foreign exchange market. And so we'll dive a little bit deeper into this and talk about how exactly, this process of trading works. And then we'll take a look at some of the other entities that you can actually trade within the foreign exchange market. All right, but first I want to give you guys a quick little refresher on what we talked about in the previous lesson, right? So that was an overview of the foreign exchange market, which is a financial market in which you can exchange one currency for another, right? And people or traders or investors, they can actually profit by playing off of the fluctuations in the exchange rate between two currencies, right? So the value of one currency is constantly changing with respect to the value of another currency. So you can make a profit as a trader or investor by playing off of those fluctuations and making the right speculation on where the value of one currency with respect to another is going, and you make those speculations off of your technical analysis or fundamental analysis, some terms that we'll talk a little bit about in future lessons. And so in the foreign exchange market, you're basically buying one currency and selling the other at the same exact time. So you'll see currencies as quoted in pairs, right? So what I'm about to put on the screen is a couple of examples of, currency pairs that you might see traded within the foreign exchange market, like GBP USD, NZD CAD, or odd JPY. Right, so let's break down these currency pairs. So currencies, they all have a three-letter abbreviation. So GBP stands for British Pound and USD stands for US Dollar. And here, like I've stated, this is NZD CAD, which is New Zealand dollar versus Canadian dollar. And down below, I have odd JPY, which is the Australian dollar versus the Japanese yen. All right, so let's talk about how exactly this process works. And I'm going to use the currency pair GBP USD for this example, right? So you can think of currency pairs as a ratio or a fraction, right? Where you have a numerator and a denominator. And if we expect the British pound to gain strength over the US dollar, the value of this currency pair would go up in price, and we'd probably want to buy into that buy. And if the British pound loses strength with respect to the US dollar, we'd probably want to sell that currency pair as it loses its value, right? So a key point to mention is that you can actually profit by either buying or selling currency pairs, and that's something we'll discuss a little bit further in future lessons. But that's just a key point to mention, because that's one of the appeals of this market, right? You can benefit or profit off of upside movements or even downturns in the market. All right, so let's take a look at USD JPY as another example. So again, you can think of these currency pairs as fractions or ratios, just to make this example or this explanation a little less abstract. But if the US dollar gains strength over the Japanese yen, you can expect that currency pair to go up in value. So you'd probably want to buy into that up move. And if the US dollar loses strength with respect to the Japanese yen, we'd probably want to, sell that currency pair as it goes down in value. All right, so let's talk a little bit about some of the major currency pairs in the foreign exchange market. And by major, I basically just mean that these are some of the most heavily traded currency pairs within this market. And one thing you'll notice is that they all include the US dollar, right? So all major currency pairs that you see will include the US dollar. And a couple of them have, some pretty cool names or nicknames attached to them, like GBP USD also being referred to as the cable, and NZD USD also being referred to as the Kiwi dollar, right? So this isn't a comprehensive list or a complete list of the major currency pairs that you'll see, but this should just give you an idea of what are some of those major currency pairs out there. All right, and so we also have minor currency pairs or cross pairs, and they're basically not as heavily traded as the major currency pairs like we talked about. And one thing you'll notice is that they do not include the US dollar, right? So all minor currency pairs that you see do not include the US dollar with them. All right, again, this is not a comprehensive list of all of the minor currency pairs, but this should just give you an idea of some of the ones that exist out there. All right, so in terms of what else you can trade within the foreign exchange market, it is pretty, extensive, right? So you can actually trade metals like gold and silver. And here I just have their, abbreviations like XAUUSD or XAGUSD. And you can also trade commodities like oil and natural gas. You can trade indices like the Dow Jones or S&P 500. And you can trade exotics, right? So exotics are currency pairs, but they're not as heavily traded as, some of the minor and major currency pairs that we talked about, right? So here I have USD ZAR, ZAR standing for the South African Rand. Here I have US dollar Mexican peso, and here I have USD DKK, DKK standing for the Danish krone. All right, and you can also trade cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ripple, right? So this list should give you guys an idea of, how big this market is in terms of, the opportunity and what is available to trade out there. All right. So with that, that is the lesson. Thank you guys for tuning in. And if you guys appreciate this type of content, definitely leave a like down below, as well as comment, maybe a beginner's topic that you want to see covered in these lessons. And definitely do not forget to subscribe for future content like this. All right, so with that, thank you guys for tuning in, and I will check back with you guys very soon. Peace.